Deputy Prime Minister Freeland and Minister Ng, as well as Dr. Tam and Dr. New. Canada has now passed a total of 200,000 cases of COVID-19 since the spring, with almost 22,000 active cases across the country today. Here and around the world, the fight against this virus is far from over. And in order to win it, we have to keep working together. Canada is a big country, and the pandemic is playing out differently in different provinces and territories. That's why I'm asking everyone to keep following the guidelines of their local public health authorities. This is a Team Canada effort. And when you wear a mask, limit your in-person close contacts, and use the free COVID Alert App, you're doing your part. As a government, we're doing ours too. Since March, we've received almost 800 million pieces of personal protective equipment, masks, gloves, gowns, and face shields to protect frontline workers and Canadians. This month alone, we've distributed over 20 million pieces of PPE to the provinces and territories. And we're continuing to work around the clock to ship even more to the front lines. Pendant qu'on fait tout ce qu'on peut pour que les Canadiens restent en santé,
we are doing everything that we can to keep Canadians safe and healthy. We are also doing everything we can to keep our economy healthy. This week is Small Business Week. This is an opportunity for us to acknowledge the importance of small businesses in our country. Recently, I have had conversations with many business leaders and entrepreneurs. They shared their suggestions with me and their worries too. Small businesses are the backbone of our communities, and our government is here for them. We're there for Canadians like Charles-Hugo Boucher of La Rue Café in my riding of Papineau. The extension of the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy will allow him to keep his employees on the payroll for longer. Winter is coming, and business owners are worried that there will be less clients if they have to line up outdoors in the cold weather. For business owners, owners of small businesses who need it, they will be able to benefit from the new commercial rent relief program for commercial tenants. The Canada Emergency Business Account, or CEBA, is also available to business owners. Small business owners and entrepreneurs are being creative and resilient, and our government will continue to support you.
Communities and the backbone of our economy. During Small Business Week, I want to take a moment to recognize the hard work and perseverance that so many people put in every day, and especially over the last 6 months. Whether you've adapted your menu to make takeout easier or used your 3D printers to manufacture PPE, your resilience and creativity is an inspiration. As a government, our goal is to help you and your employees through this tough time. From the beginning of this crisis, we took immediate and significant action to help Canadian businesses keep their door open and their workers on the job. Recently, I spoke with many small business owners that shared their experience with me. Dr. Hedy Fry introduced me to Lisa Arthurs, owner of Quick Nickel Clothing in Vancouver's West End, for whom the new Canada Emergency Red Subsidy could provide direct help as she continues to work hard to keep her business running. Of course, the extended wage subsidy and the expanded Canada Emergency Business Account are also there to help. Moving forward, we will continue to listen to the needs of small businesses, just like we listen to the needs of all Canadians. We'll be there for people, whatever it takes, as long as it takes. Malheureusement, notre lutte contre la COVID-19 n'est pas terminée et il faut continuer d'écouter les conseils des autorités
against COVID-19 is not over yet. We must continue to follow the recommendations of public health authorities. Wear a mask, download and use the free COVID Alert App, and limit your interactions with others. We are all doing our part to slow the spread of the virus. If you'd like to contribute, why not support small businesses in your area, in your neighborhood? Go buy a gift card or takeout for dinner.
Taking a moment to talk about the Community Resilience Fund, which supports partnerships and innovation in countering online radicalization to violence. The pandemic has increased the amount of time we spend in front of our screens. And while the digital space is powerful, it's not without issues. Online hate is far too common, and all too often, it can spill over into real life. Better understanding violent extremism is key to preventing radicalization to violence so that we can stop tragedies before they happen. So far, the Community Resilience Fund has supported 39 projects across the country with a total of over $29 million. Today, I can announce that we will invest in the YWCA Canada's project Block Hate, Building Resilience Against Online Hate Speech. This is an important project, and I know it will help keep our communities safer. To all the groups and local leaders who are part of this fund, thank you for your vital work. Merci. Je vais maintenant céder la parole à la ministre.
And we will now hear from Minister Ng.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Bonjour à toutes et à tous.
Hello, everyone.
Choosing to go out and start and run your own small business takes hard work at the very best of times. Doing so in a global pandemic is an extraordinary challenge. Small business owners have demonstrated incredible resilience amid COVID-19. Whether it is innovating and adapting their business models, taking advantage of the government's emergency supports, or looking to new markets for opportunities to recover and to grow. This Small Business Week, I want to commend and thank all small businesses across the country. Maintenant, plus que jamais, nous continuerons à être là pour vous soutenir.
We will continue to be there for you. We are here for the millions of Canadians you employ as well.
A new investment of $12 million to help small businesses through the Canada United Small Business Resilience Fund. Canada United is a national fundraising campaign created by the Royal Bank of Canada in collaboration with private sector partners, including the Ontario Chamber of Commerce and provincial and territorial chambers of commerce. Leur campagne a permis de relier le soutien des Canadiens aux petites entreprises locales dans tout.
Canadians have been able to support local small businesses everywhere.
The Small Business Relief Fund is supporting Canadian businesses with their COVID-19 recovery efforts with grants up to $5,000. These grants will help thousands of small business owners cover the costs of personal protective equipment, make physical modifications to their businesses to meet local health and safety requirements, and enhance their digital or e-commerce capabilities. This is especially important as we enter the second wave of this pandemic. Applications are open to small businesses across all sectors and industries in every part of the country who have at least $150,000 in annual sales or have up to 75 employees. You can get the details from the Ontario Chamber of Commerce and apply through their online portal starting next Monday, October the 26th. Our announcement today is about government and private sector working together as Team Canada to help our small businesses in that fight against COVID-19. And I want to thank all of the chambers across the country for stepping up. I want to thank RBC and the private sector partners. It is yet another lifeline for resilient small businesses across Canada. This program builds on already a wide range of programs to help businesses keep their employees on payroll, keep up with their operating expenses like rent, and to bridge to better times. And I encourage everyone to download the COVID-19 Alert App if you haven't already. Just recently, I took a precautionary test after being notified by the app, which thankfully came back negative. The app works. Without it, I would not have known that I would have been exposed to the virus, and it is the best way of keeping yourself and your community safe and to prevent the spread of COVID-19. À toutes les petites entreprises canadiennes, nous sommes toujours avec vous.
We will always be here to support Canadian small businesses.
To adjust and to respond to the urgent needs of our businesses as we navigate through COVID-19 in the weeks and months ahead. Merci, and now I will pass to our Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Bonjour, good morning. With the second wave upon us, now is the time for us all as Canadians to pull together and flatten the curve. We did it in the spring and summer, and I know that we can do it again. I'd like to take a moment to remind the businesses facing real challenges because of the measures we are all taking to fight the second wave about the new support measures we recently announced and put in place to help them get through this. Premièrement, nous gelons le taux actuel de la subvention salariale pour nous assurer que les entreprises,
The wage subsidy, we will ensure that all charities and NGOs have the support that they need to keep their employees on the payroll throughout the second wave. We intend to extend the wage subsidy through to June 2021.
We're freezing the wage subsidy program at current rates to ensure businesses, charities, and nonprofits have the support they need to keep their workers paid through the second wave. And we intend to keep the wage subsidy in place until June 2021, as was announced in the speech from the throne. Nous proposons aussi la subvention d'assurance du Canada pour le loyer.
Also, the Canada Rent Assistance Program. This is a new program which can cover up to 65% of eligible rent or mortgage-related costs of businesses experiencing revenue loss. Businesses who are facing these new restrictions due to the second wave will have a 25% top-up for rent and mortgage-related costs. This means that businesses, and especially those hardest hit, will have up to 90% of their rent costs covered if they have a lockdown.
New Canada Emergency Rent Subsidy Program, which will provide rent or mortgage support of up to 65% directly to businesses that are facing revenue loss. And for businesses that are facing lockdown restrictions related to the pandemic, we are proposing a top-up of 25% of eligible rent or mortgage expenses. Combined, this would mean that hard-hit businesses subject to a new second wave lockdown could receive rent support of up to 90%. Finally, we're expanding the Canada Emergency Business Account so that eligible businesses can access another interest-free $20,000, half of which would be forgivable, to help them weather the storm and get through the winter. And very soon, we will announce details of the process enabling businesses that do not operate from a business banking account, but have qualifying payroll or non-deferrable expenses to apply for CEBA for the first time. Canadian businesses need this new rent support and extended wage support to see them through the crisis, and we intend to introduce the legislation that will deliver this support very soon. It is my sincere hope that members of Parliament from all parties will come together as Team Canada to support this legislation to ensure that our businesses have what they need to get through the coronavirus. Thank you. Merci. And now, sorry. Maintenant, je donne la parole à Dr. Tam. Sorry.
And now we will hear from Dr. Tam.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. There have been 201,437 cases of COVID-19 in Canada, including 9,778 deaths. Nationally, there are close to 22,000 active cases across the country. Over the past week, labs across Canada have tested an average of over 75,000 people daily, with a 3.1% testing positive. Yesterday, a total of 3,289 cases were reported nationally, 866 of which were backlogged cases from the weekend, and the remaining over 2,400 were newly identified yesterday, bringing the average daily case count to over 2,370 cases. The number of people experiencing severe illness is also increasing. Over the past 7 days, there were on average over 950 individuals with COVID-19 being treated in Canadian hospitals, including close to 200 in critical care and an average of 22 deaths reported each day. As each part of the country is experiencing the pandemic differently, people may be facing uncertainty about what action is needed to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe. What is certain is that our response requires a collective effort. Everyone's actions matter. Whether your community is experiencing a resurgence and needs to reduce infection rates, or your community has low disease activity already and wants to keep it low, the way to do this is the same. We can all do our part by committing to proven effective public health measures, stay home if you have symptoms, even mild ones, wearing a face mask as appropriate, and maintaining physical distancing. I recognize that keeping apart is difficult and presents different challenges for different people. We all have unique circumstances and responsibilities, but when it comes to being in close contact with others, we need to remember that every person that we encounter brings with them a whole network of contacts. So as much as you can, I urge everyone to stick to your consistent, trusted close contacts and avoid encounters in crowded and closed settings with limited ventilation. Canadians can also go the extra mile by sharing credible information on COVID-19 risks and prevention practices and measures to reduce COVID-19 in communities, or by downloading the COVID Alert App to help limit the spread of COVID-19. So for those who are active on social media platforms like Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, or within the gaming community, I urge you to spread the message to your broader social networks on how we can all work together to keep it on a slow burn in Canada. You can find links to credible information, information resources, and infographics also in my Twitter feed. Thank you.
Bonjour à tous et à toutes.
Hello. There have been 2,437 cases of COVID-19 in Canada, including 9,778 deaths. Nationally, there are close to 22,000 active cases across the country. Over the past week, labs across Canada have with over 3.1% testing positive. Yesterday, a total of 3,289 cases were reported nationally. 866 of these cases were backlogged cases from the weekend, and the remaining over 2,400 were newly identified yesterday, bringing the average daily case count to over 2,370 cases. The number of people experiencing severe illness is also increasing. Over the past 7 days, there were, on average, over 950 individuals with COVID-19 being treated in Canadian hospitals, including close to 200 in critical care and an average of 22 deaths reported each day. As each part of the country is experiencing the pandemic differently, people may be facing uncertainty about what action is needed to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe. What is certain is that our response requires a collective effort. Everyone's actions matter. Whether your community is experiencing a resurgence and needs to reduce infection rates, or your community has low disease activity already and wants to keep it low, the way to do this is the same. We can all do our part by committing to proven, effective public health measures. Stay home if you have symptoms, even mild ones. Wear a face mask as appropriate, and maintain physical distancing. We recognize that keeping apart is difficult. It presents difficult challenges for different people. We all have unique circumstances and responsibilities. But when it comes to being in close contact with others, we need to remember that every person that we encounter brings with them a whole network of contacts. So, As much as you can, we urge everyone to stick to their consistent, trusted, close contacts and to avoid encounters in crowded and closed settings with limited ventilation. Canadians can also go the extra mile by sharing credible information on COVID-19 risks and prevention practices, as well as measures to reduce COVID-19 in communities. Canadians can also download the COVID Alert App to help limit the spread of COVID-19. For those who are active on social media platforms like Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, or within the gaming community, I urge you to spread the message to your broader social networks. Spread the message about how we can all work together to keep us on the slow burn in Canada. You can find links to credible information resources, and infographics on our Twitter. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. New. We'll now go to the phones for questions. After questions on the phone, we'll come back to the room. In about 20 minutes, the Prime Minister will excuse himself, but the doctors and the ministers will still be around for further questions. Operator, question on the phone, please.
Thank you. Merci. Première question, Hélène Buzetti, Le Devoir. À vous.
Oui, bonjour, Monsieur Trudeau.
First question, Hélène Buzetti, Le Devoir. Hello, my question is for Prime Minister Trudeau. The Conservative Committee wants an anti-corruption committee to be formed, and your House leader, Pablo Rodriguez, says that your government doesn't want an election. Can we believe this? Mr. Rodriguez says that an anti-corruption committee would paralyze the government, yet this committee, it wouldn't necessarily meet every single day, 5 days a week. Would the Conservative Party and the opposition parties really take it so far? And do you want to go into an election?
Nous ne voulons
Answer,
pas
Prime
d'élection.
Minister Trudeau. We don't want an election right now. Yesterday, there were 2,400 new cases of COVID-19. Our government is squarely focused on the health of Canadians and on the health of our economy. We will keep doing everything that we can do, everything that we must do to help Canadians. We also want Parliament to operate and to operate well. That's why we proposed a special committee. This special committee would look into all spending and all investments since the beginning of the pandemic. As members of this committee, opposition parties will be able to look into our spending. However, the Conservative Party has put forward a motion which demonstrates very clearly that they no longer have confidence in our government. And if that's the case, then they must make a choice. Will they continue to operate within this minority government, or have they lost confidence in the government? That is their choice to make.
Yesterday, there were 2,400 cases, new cases of COVID-19. Our government is going to remain focused on helping Canadians fight this health pandemic and fight this economic crisis. As we've done from the beginning, we're going to do everything we can to help Canadians through this. We proposed a special committee, an extraordinary measure, so that parliamentarians can dig into all the spending that this government has put forward in exceptional circumstances to help Canadians through this COVID crisis. The Conservatives put forward a motion that clearly outlines their lack of confidence in the government. The opposition is going to have to decide whether they want to make this minority parliament work or whether they have lost confidence in the government.
Ministre B, Hélène?
Follow-up question. So you say that the opposition has to make a choice, but this is also your choice. You could choose to have a non-confidence vote. And what about the NDP? Have you offered them anything to get out of this impasse? Answer, Prime Minister Trudeau. We have made a suggestion. We proposed to set up a committee that would examine all government spending during COVID. It is important
dans leur
that
démocratie,
Canadians
aussi
have
confiance
confidence
dans
in
leurs
their
institutions.
democracy
Et
and
c'est
in
pour
their
ça qu'on
institutions.
est ouvert à créer ce comité
That's
spécial qui
why
permettra
we are willing to
justement
create this special
aux
committee,
députés de tous les
committee,
partis de
and this
scruter
committee
attentivement
would
toutes les
allow
dépenses, tous les
all
investissements qu'on
parties
a faits
to
pour contrer la
scrutinize and
COVID-19, pour
carefully
contrer
study
cette
all
crise
spending
économique.
and all
C'est une
investments made
proposition
during
raisonnable,
COVID-19 to fight this
exceptionnelle,
pandemic.
et on espère que les partis
We
d'opposition
think this
vont
is a
voir
great
qu'on veut
suggestion,
réellement faire
a great
fonctionner ce
initiative,
Parlement,
and we hope
et on veut
opposition
qu'ils puissent
parties
faire leur travail.
will realize that we really want Parliament to work
We
well.
put forward an exceptional measure for a special committee of Parliament that would have as a mandate to examine all the spending, all the investments we made in Canadians through this COVID crisis. We have rolled out unprecedented measures to support Canadians, to support small businesses, to support families, to support communities right across the country. And we feel that parliamentarians should, in this exceptional time, have an ability to look very carefully at all that spending, and that's why we're proposing this special committee. But it will be up to parliamentarians and the opposition to decide whether they want to make this minority parliament work or whether they've lost confidence in this government's ability to manage this pandemic and continue to govern this country during this crisis.
Next question, operator.
Thank you. Merci. Before we continue, we please ask journalists to keep their questions to ministers and the medical team once the Prime Minister has left the room. Avant de poursuivre, nous demandons aux journalistes de bien garder leurs questions pour les ministres et l'équipe médicale lorsque le Premier ministre aura quitté la pièce. Next question, Christy Kirkup, The Globe and Mail. Line open.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. What specific steps did your Fisheries Minister and her department take in the weeks leading up to the escalation of violence in Nova Scotia?
From the very beginning of the concerns that have been expressed over the past weeks, our ministers, not just the Fisheries Minister, but Minister of Indigenous Services and Minister of Indigenous Relations, as well as Public Safety, have been engaged in the issue of Indigenous fishery in Nova Scotia, and very aware of questions being raised across the country in coastal communities. We've taken this issue extremely seriously. It is important that we keep Canadians protected and safe as we move forward to respect and uphold rights that have been long recognized for Indigenous fishers.
Follow-up, Christy?
And just as a follow-up, Prime Minister, 21 years after the Supreme Court of Canada ruled in Marshall, why are there still fault lines, to use the words of one of your ministers?
First of all, over the past 21 years, many different governments have moved forward on granting licenses to Indigenous communities, on ensuring that there is progress being made. Indeed, Minister LeBlanc, when he was Fisheries Minister, moved forward on significant initiatives as well. We recognize there is a need to continue to accelerate and to end this question by fully recognizing the rights of Indigenous fishers to a moderate livelihood and ensure that that is fully in place. This is the work we're doing right now. It is not easy work. It is not quick work. It is work that needs to be done properly, respectfully, and in partnership with everyone involved in a nation-to-nation relationship and bringing along the commercial fishery community as well. That is the work that we are doing right now.
Merci. Prochaine question, operator.
Thank you. Merci. Prochaine question, Mélanie Marquis, La Presse.
Next question, Mélanie Marquis, La Presse.
Merci. Bonjour, M. Trudeau.
Hello, Prime Minister Trudeau. Can you tell us what exactly would happen if the We Charity motion were to be adopted? Would you then immediately go to the Governor General and ask for the dissolution of Parliament? Answer, Prime Minister Trudeau. If the Parliament votes and does not have confidence in our government, then yes, there will be an election. I know that all Canadians want us to remain focused on them. Canadians want us to focus on the fact that we have 22,000 active COVID-19 cases. We are facing a health crisis and an economic crisis. Our government will continue to focus on its COVID-19 response and on support for Canadians. It is up to the opposition to decide whether it wants to work with the government so that Parliament can continue to operate and help Canadians. The opposition can decide to participate in the committee that we have suggested, committee to study our COVID-19 spending.
We know that if Parliament determines that they no longer have confidence in the government, in a minority government, in a minority parliament, unfortunately, there would be elections. But we also know nobody wants elections. People want to continue to have their government focused on helping them in their jobs, helping them in this health crisis, and that's what we will continue to concentrate on. We've offered to create a committee that will allow parliamentarians to dig into all COVID spending in these exceptional times. And we hope that opposition parties will decide that they want to make Parliament continue to work for Canadians and not side with the Conservatives who've decided that they no longer have confidence in this government, as Leader O'Toole said this morning.
Mélanie, un suivi?
Oui,
Follow-up question.
concrètement, ce que ça veut dire, en fait,
Yes, but tangibly
Trudeau,
speaking,
c'est que vous êtes en train de
what
dire aux
this means
Canadiens que
is
vous
that
préférez
you are telling Canadians.
Vous avez coupé, Mélanie.
We can no longer hear the journalist.
Êtes-vous sur mute?
Prime Minister, Melanie, are you on mute?
Please, un moment, s'il vous plaît.
Operator, yes, just a moment.
À vous la parole, Madame Marquis.
Oui, vous m'entendez?
Là, on vous entend.
Mélanie Marquis,
OK, parfait.
can you hear me? Prime Minister,
Comment
yes.
expliquez-vous aux
Ms. Marquis,
Canadiens que
follow-up question.
vous pourriez les envoyer en élection?
How will you
Juste
explain
parce
to
que
Canadians
vous refusez
that
la
we could go
création de
into
comités
elections
qui veut
just
enquêter sur
because
Fisheries,
your
qui
government
a
is
embarrassé votre
refusing to
gouvernement, qui
allow
sont mis
a
embarrassés?
committee to investigate the We Charity scandal?
Qui
Answer.
a un Parlement
Prime Minister Trudeau.
minoritaire.
We
Ça
are a
veut dire
minority
que le
government.
gouvernement ne peut gouverner
This
que
means
si
that the
on a la
government
confiance
can
des
only
partis
govern
d'opposition.
with the
Les
confidence of
conservateurs
opposition
ont mis de
parties.
l'avant une motion
The
qui
Conservative Party
clairement souligne
has
qu'ils
put forward
ont
a
perdu la
motion
confiance dans ce
which
gouvernement
clearly
avec leurs
indicates that
propos, et
they have
M. O'Toole l'a
lost
confirmé ce
confidence in
matin.
our government.
Et
Mr.
je pense
O'Toole
que
confirmed
c'est
this
aux
this
partis
morning.
d'opposition de décider
It is
si
now
eux
up
aussi
to
ils ont
opposition
perdu
parties
confiance
to
dans ce
decide
gouvernement
whether
ou non.
they, too,
Mais
like the
nous,
Conservative
en
Party,
tant que
have
gouvernement, nous allons
lost
rester
confidence
concentrés
in our
sur
government.
la COVID-19,
In the
sur le
meantime,
travail que
our
nous
government
faisons
will
pour
continue
les
to
Canadiens,
focus
tout en
on
essayant de
our
faire fonctionner
COVID-19
ce
response,
Parlement en
on our
proposant
assistance
un
to
comité
Canadians,
qui va avoir
all
pour mandat de
while
regarder toutes les dépenses
working
et les
to create
investissements
a
faits
committee
pendant la
that would look
COVID-19
into
par ce
all
gouvernement.
COVID-19 spending and investments.
Thank you. We'll now turn to the room for questions.
Oui, Daniel Leblanc, Radio-Canada.
Question. Daniel
Dans les
Leblanc,
deux langues, s'il vous plaît.
Radio-Canada.
Est-ce que vous
Please
croyez que le
answer in
système de
both
nomination des
languages.
juges doit
The
être changé pour
system, the way
empêcher que
we
les
appoint
nominations ne
judges,
soient
should it be
entachées par la
changed so
partisanerie?
that appointments
On
are
a
not
amené en
partisan?
2016
Answer,
un nouveau
Prime Minister
processus
Trudeau.
de
In
nomination
2016,
des juges
we
qui est basé
introduced
sur le
a
mérite. On
new
a réformé
appointment process for
énormément
judges. It is a
l'approche
merit-based
que
process.
préconisait le gouvernement conservateur précédent
We
en créant des
radically
comités
changed
indépendants pour
the
évaluer
approach
les
that the
juges,
previous
pour mettre
Conservative
les
government
candidats basés sur le mérite à
favored.
l'avance.
It
Et
is
on va
now a
continuer
merit-based
d'assurer que les
nomination
candidats
and
choisis
appointment
pour la
process.
magistrature
And we will
soient
continue
des
to
gens
ensure
de
that
haute
those
qualité,
chosen
qualifiés
to
et qui
be
représentent la
judges
diversité de notre
are
pays.
extremely competent
We made
and represent the
significant
diversity of our
reforms
country.
to the judicial selection process, ensuring that the highest caliber candidates were chosen on a merit basis, drawing on independent committees to make recommendations. We've ensured that we have top quality candidates for the magistrature across the country. that do a better job of reflecting the full diversity of this country.
Hi, Prime Minister Crystal Logue with Global News. Canada has announced major innovations to help companies produce things like PPE and ventilators. What is the federal government doing to help create a made in Canada solution to things like lab equipment, medical grade plastics, and other things that are vital for testing for COVID-19?
We've seen Canadian companies step up since the beginning of this pandemic on manufacturing of PPE, but also on manufacturing of testing equipment. I made a virtual visit to an aerospace company in the Maritimes that actually is using their 3D printer to create swabs for testing. There are things that companies are doing right across the country to innovate, to be creative, and mostly to keep their fellow Canadians safe. And we will continue to work as a government with companies right across the country to ensure that we're creating as many made in Canada solutions as we possibly can, because that's the best way of keeping Canadians safe.
Prime Minister Tonda McCharles, Toronto Star. The government's been talking about aid for the airline sector, and I'd like to understand, I heard your minister on the weekend talking about potentially taking an ownership stake in airlines. Can you talk to us a bit about what your thinking is on this? What kind of aid do you think the airline sector needs? Is LEAF the option? How are you going to deal with them?
First of all, from the very beginning, we moved very quickly on offering supports to large and small companies across industries across the country. And the wage subsidy actually delivered over $1 billion in support to Canada's major airlines. It has been significant and important to keep these airlines going. But we recognize how challenging this pandemic is on travel and on our aerospace industry in general. And that is why we're always looking for more ways to support workers, to support innovators, and to support businesses affected by this COVID-19 pandemic. We will continue to work closely with industry and business groups to ensure that we're doing the right thing, not just to keep people whole during this pandemic as much as possible, but to ensure that our economy and our services and our Canadian companies come roaring back once this pandemic is through.
Chief Public Health Officer has said in hotspots like in Ottawa and Toronto that Halloween's canceled, despite the fact that Dr. Tam and Dr. New have said on multiple occasions that's a safe activity that people can do. What do you say to parents and kids who are frustrated about conflicting health information that led to Halloween being canceled in these cities? And on a personal level, are you going to be sending your kids out for Halloween this year?
I think it's really important that Canadians across the country listen to their local health authorities. We know that it's not easy and it's frustrating, and we're trying to get through this pandemic as best we possibly can, and to do that we have to reduce community transmission, and unfortunately all of us are having to make sacrifices of different types, particularly kids, in really difficult situations. Listening to public health officials means that my family will not be going trick-or-treating this year, because in Ottawa and in Ontario, in red zones like Ottawa, they are not encouraging or not recommending trick-or-treating, and therefore we won't be. A friend of mine suggested that maybe we could do an Easter-style treasure hunt for candy throughout the house and yard, and that's something that we're also reflecting on. I think families will be creative in how they respond to giving their kids as fun a holiday as we can, while always listening to public health officials and respecting local guidelines. Je pense que je comprends la frustration de bien des gens qui doivent continuer de faire des sacrifices, des enfants qui doivent encore souffrir qu'on n'a pas des célébrations tant anticipées comme l'Halloween dans plusieurs parties du pays. Mais c'est important de toujours écouter les instructions de santé publique locale. Pour ma famille, on est à Ottawa, et donc les instructions de santé publique Ottawa et de l'Ontario nous disent qu'Ottawa, on ne devrait pas passer l'Halloween, donc on ne va pas le faire.
We are advised to not trick or treat as usual, and so we will follow those instructions. We might do a bit of a treasure hunt for candy in our house and backyard. That's an option that we're thinking about. We want to make sure that the kids have fun and can celebrate, but we want to do so safely. That's what all parents want for this
Hi,
Halloween.
Minister Tom Perry with CBC. I'd like to ask you about disinformation. There's all kinds of conspiracy theories going around about COVID-19. Charlie Angus, the NDP MP, says he's had to tell his constituents the government does not have a plan to build a network of COVID internment camps. So I'm wondering, what do you think is driving these kinds of theories? Are you concerned about them, and what more can you do to fight them?
We have seen over the past number of years a rise in concerted efforts around misinformation and disinformation on a broad range of subjects designed to undermine people's confidence in their institutions, in their democracies. Some are foreign actors trying to disrupt successful democracies. Others are people with extremist agendas within our countries trying to weaken people's confidence in our institutions and our democracy. As a government, we need to continue to stand strong, particularly during a public health crisis where the best thing Canadians can do can listen to experts, can listen to doctors, can listen to people who are focused on keeping them safe every single day. Whether it's wearing a mask, whether it's keeping your distance, whether it's getting the COVID Alert App, or whether it's eventually getting vaccinated when we have a successful and safe vaccine. These are things that Canadians need to do that unfortunately there is a tremendous amount of noise and harmful misinformation about on the internet. I was chatting with a group of students the other day, and a young woman asked me about COVID internment camps, and I had to explain that as we consume increasing amounts and various sources of information online and around us, we need to continue to be attentive to source. We need to continue to be attentive to comparing various reports and looking for trusted sources like Dr. Tam, like regional public health authorities to tell the truth. We need to hold together and resist people who would sow chaos within our communities and our democracy. Okay. Je pense que ça fait plusieurs années qu'on comprend la menace de désinformation, de fausseté qui se propage dans différents coins de l'Internet.
False information, disinformation, misinformation on the internet for many years.
Les experts, les professionnels de la santé.
In this situation, during COVID-19, it is even more important than usual to have access to trustworthy information. So we ask Canadians to be very attentive to the news that they're consuming and to compare news sources in order to form an informed opinion on how to stay safe and how to protect their families. There are people in Canada and around the world who want us to lose trust in our institutions, but Canadians are strong and we will continue to have strong institutions.
Mia Rabson from the Canadian Press. I'd like to pivot briefly to dairy farmers who have been waiting very patiently for compensation for the new NAFTA deal that was signed. They said they sort of put off coming at you asking for it because of the pandemic, but they really would like to know when they might be able to expect compensation.
We moved forward on billions of dollars of historic compensations for dairy farmers and other producers in following the signing of the ratification of the CPTPP and of with Asia and our free trade deal with Europe. We are right now working with dairy farmers and others on compensation for NAFTA. We will continue to make this a priority. Even through this pandemic, we recognize how many families and communities have been hit hard by this pandemic, and we will always be there to support people, including with compensations that we have long promised and will deliver.
Thank you. That concludes the time that the Prime Minister has. The ministers and doctors will still be available for a number of questions afterwards. We'll now turn back to the phone. Operator.
Thank you. Merci. Next question, Lina Dib, La Presse Canadienne. À vous.
Lina Dib, la
Oui,
presse
bonjour. Ma
canadienne.
question donc sera à
Question.
vous, Madame Freeland, puisque
My
M.
question is
Trudeau est
for
parti,
you,
mais ça tombe bien parce que c'est
Ms.
votre
Freeland,
homologue à Québec,
since the Prime
la
Minister
vice-première
just
ministre,
left.
Madame
Your
Guilbeault,
Quebecois
qui est venue sur le
counterpart,
sujet aujourd'hui.
Minister Guilbeault,
Donc, j'aimerais savoir ce que vous
made a statement today,
pensez de ce qui est en
and
train
I'd
de se
like
passer à
to
l'Université
know
d'Ottawa.
what you think
Ce qui est arrivé
about
à cette
what is
professeure,
occurring at the
Véronica
University of
Guilbeault-Tisaille,
Ottawa
qui a été
and
suspendue.
the situation with the professor that has been suspended.
Merci pour
Answer, Minister
la
Freeland.
question, Lina.
Thank you, Lina, for the question.
Je pense que c'est important
Here's what I
de
think.
respecter les
It is
décisions
important
judiciaires,
to
le
respect
processus légal.
judicial decisions and the legal process.
OK, peut-être que vous ne savez pas
Follow-up
exactement
question.
à quoi je fais référence, parce qu'il n'y a
Perhaps
pas
you
eu de
don't
décision
know what
judiciaire ni
I'm
de
referring
processus
to.
légal.
There was no
Donc,
legal
c'est cette
process
professeure,
or anything
lieutenant
judicial
Duval,
in this
qui a
issue.
été
A
suspendue
University of
parce qu'elle
Ottawa
a
professor
utilisé dans
was
son cours d'histoire de
suspended
l'art
because during her art
ce
history
que les
class,
Anglais appellent the N-word
she
pour
used
expliquer
the
une
N-word
théorie.
in order to
Et
explain
puis,
a
à
theory.
la suite de ça, donc, il y a eu des signatures de professeurs
After that,
qui l'ont appuyée. Et
professor
elle, tout
signed a
comme les
petition to
professeurs qui l'ont
support
appuyée, ont
her.
été dénoncés comme
She
racistes.
and the
On
professors
a
who
affiché
supported her
leurs adresses
were
courriels, leurs
condemned as
informations
racist,
personnelles. On a
and their
incité
personal
à les
information, their
intimider sur les
email
médias sociaux.
addresses
Et puis, le
were
recteur, à
circulated.
travers tout
They
ça, ne
were
vient pas à la
harassed on
défense,
social media.
au contraire de la
And the
professeure
rector of the
Guilbeault-Tisaille.
University of Ottawa has not come to their
OK, Lina,
defense.
j'ai pensé
Answer,
que tu
Minister
as
Freeland.
posé une question sur notre processus.
Oh,
Ouais,
I understand, Lina.
Non,
My
merci
apologies.
pour
I
la
thought you were
question.
asking a question about something else. Thank you for this question.
Je dois confier que je ne connais pas
I
bien
must
les
admit
détails
that I
de
am not
cette
aware of the
situation.
specifics of this
Alors, je
situation.
ne vais pas faire des commentaires.
So,
Si vous voulez
I will not
écouter
comment
mon
on the
point de vue
situation.
sur ça, je
If you'd
serai
like
contente
to hear my
d'étudier un peu
point of
plus et
view,
de le commenter
I
après.
will have to look into what's occurring and then comment later.
I thanked Lena for the question. I just said I'm not familiar with all the details of this case, and I would be happy to make myself familiar and speak about it after that.
Thank you. We'll now turn to the room.
Laurence Martin de Radio-Canada.
Laurence Martin,
Par rapport à
Radio-Canada.
la motion des conservateurs
My
sur
question is
le
about the
comité
Conservative
anticorruption,
Party's
bon, là, qui ne
motion
s'appellerait
to
plus
set
le
up an
comité
anti-corruption
anticorruption.
committee or
Si le NPD
a committee that
appuie
would do that but
votre
have another name.
proposition, est-ce que c'est suffisant pour vous? S'il y a seulement ce parti qui
If
appuie,
only the
est-ce que c'est
Conservative
suffisant pour vous
Party
pour continuer à
supports
gouverner,
this
pour
motion,
sentir que vous avez la confiance de la Chambre?
would you be able to continue
Pour
governing?
avoir, merci pour
And
ta
so that you have
question.
the confidence of the House?
Et je pense que c'est une question pour moi.
Answer. Thank you for the question, which I believe
Pour
was addressed
avoir
to
la
me.
confiance de la Chambre, on
In
a
order to
besoin
have the
d'appui
confidence
d'une
of
majorité
the
des
House,
députés.
we need the support
Et
of the
comme le Premier
majority
ministre
of
a dit,
MPs.
on ne veut pas les élections.
As the Prime Minister
Et
said,
j'espère
we do not want to
qu'on
call an election
aura
now.
la confiance d'une
I hope
majorité
that
des
we will
députés.
have the confidence of
Maintenant,
a majority
le Canada
of MPs.
a une deuxième vague du coronavirus.
Canada is now facing
Nous avons
the second wave of
situation sérieuse
COVID-19.
dans notre économie.
Our
C'est
economy
un moment pour nous,
is facing
pour nous
many
de travailler
problems.
ensemble pour lutter
This is an
contre le
opportunity for
coronavirus.
us to
Et
work
j'espère
together
que ce sera
to
possible.
fight COVID, and I hope that
Mais
we will be able
seulement
to do so.
l'appui du NPD,
Follow-up
c'est suffisant
question.
pour vous? Vous n'avez pas peur
Yes,
que les
but if you
conservateurs
only
vont
have the
bloquer
support of
constamment?
the NDP, is that enough for you?
Les
Don't you fear that the
règles d'une
Conservative
démocratie
Party will
parlementaire,
vote
c'est
down
que
most
c'est
of your
suffisant
motions?
d'avoir
Answer,
une
Minister
majorité,
Freeland.
l'appui d'une majorité
In
des députés.
any parliament,
Et ce
we
sera
just need
suffisant
the
pour
support
vous,
of a
évidemment.
majority of MPs.
Hi, Ms. Freeland. Mackenzie Gray with CTV News. We've heard at CTV that there's been a number of people who, when they've tested positive for COVID and have the COVID app, they haven't been able to get the one-time testing number that you have to put in to tell your contacts that you've actually tested positive. If the app isn't working as necessarily as effective it is, Ms. Ng brought up earlier that she got a test because of the app, how can we really say that Canadians should download it if we're not able to use it as it's intended to be done?
So I have downloaded the app also, and let me encourage all Canadians to download it. All Canadians in provinces where the app is being used to download it and use it. We have heard for many months now from Teresa and Howard, from our doctors, that we need as many layers of protection as we can build up against the coronavirus, and the app is a great layer of protection. In terms of the particular concerns that you mentioned, Mackenzie, I'm not aware of those, but of course we need to look into them and be sure that the app is working as well as it can. But what I really want to emphasize, and again, we've heard this so many times from Dr. Tam and Dr. New, we're not looking right now for a single magic bullet. What we're looking for is as many different things that we can do to make ourselves as safe as possible. So we physically distance, we wear masks, we avoid unnecessary social interactions. Where we can, we have the app, and all of that helps.
On a separate subject, on the conference motion, today Mr. Rodriguez said that it would potentially paralyze the government if this committee is brought forward. I can remember back to the NAFTA negotiations, you told reporters on many occasions that the government is capable of walking and chewing gum at the same time, and I'm sure you'd be capable of having a committee that looks into the WE scandal, potential spending on COVID-19, and also being able to continue to work on the pandemic. Why is there actually a need for this to be a confidence motion?
You know, for me, the key thing is something that the Prime Minister said earlier in this press conference. If you read carefully the motion that has been put forward, it is a motion that frankly drips with a lack of confidence in this government. And that's fair enough. There is no requirement that opposition parties or opposition MPs have confidence in the government. I believe right now, though, that for us to govern effectively, we need to have the confidence of the House. We have managed to win the confidence of the House at some key moments since the last election. I was particularly pleased and frankly grateful that we had unanimous support when we put forward the measures to extend EI and CERB and to build a more robust set of programs that could take us through last summer. I think some of you will remember it was a long and contentious debate. We ended up voting, I think it was at 2:30 in the morning, but we all got there at the end because I think members of Parliament recognized that Canada is in a crisis and we need to be able to govern effectively. I think that crisis is still with us. Speaking as a minister of the Crown, I need the confidence of the House to be able to continue to do my job. And I hope, and I really trust and believe, we will get that confidence this week, not least because of the business support measures, which I outlined again this morning. Our businesses, our economy really needs that support. We're going to be putting forward legislation soon to get that support to businesses. I have talked to a lot of businesses since we proposed the programs, and they've said, we really want the support soon. It needs a working parliament to get that support out to people, and it needs a parliament that ultimately does have confidence in the government and is prepared to support measures that the government puts forward.
Hi, Tom Perry with CBC. My question is actually for Dr. Tam.
Yay.
I can come back afterwards, but actually I wanted to ask you about disinformation as well. I asked the Prime Minister about this, these theories going around about COVID-19. I'm just wondering if these kind of theories, this kind of disinformation makes it harder for you to get your message out, to get Canadians taking your advice seriously.
Well, I think as I reflect on the unprecedented pandemic that we have, it is also, I think, the pandemic that's occurred in the age of social media and many different ways in which information is spread faster than the virus itself. So that is a dual challenge for sure. So misinformation and disinformation does not help public health officials. And so I think we, as a collective public health system, have tried through various means to provide information like these press briefings, our websites, guidance, etc. But we are aware, of course, that misinformation, disinformation exists. I think there's a part for almost everyone. There's a part for journalists who are in this room to help reveal the sort of tactics and the measures that are at play, including bots and other aspects of what's actually happening in the social media space. There's a role for, I think, internet and social media platforms and companies. So you may want to interview Facebook, for example, or Google, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. They have put in some measures, and some of them involves actually directing people to the credible sites like the Public Health Agency website if people did certain searches, taking down, sort of demonetizing some of the, quite frankly, outrageous disinformation, and sort of putting them down the list of search engines and that type of thing. So they're trying different tactics, I think, in their own ways. But everybody, I think, can do more. Individuals not only should try and ask themselves, as I said multiple times, of when you look at a piece of information, ask a number of questions, including exactly where does this come from? Is that domain name credible? Can we use those fact checker websites to check before? Definitely ask yourself this question before you forward the information to someone else. So be media smart as well as science smart, if you like. You're sort of, everyone is an armchair epidemiologist. Everyone should actually be media smart at this point in time. It's not just for COVID-19, it's actually for health matters in general and vaccines in general, for example. And so I think that, so if you look at the sphere of everyone who's working to help in our COVID-19 pandemic, everyone actually has a role also in the stopping of mis and disinformation. And so I think, we know we can do better in terms of reaching targeted audience in different ways. Today, my message actually was directed to individuals, people who are better than us on TikTok or the Instagram, etc. Because what you want, I would love to challenge people to do is like, if we had a video on a testimonial from a youth about their experience with COVID-19, is that people who are better on the TikToks and the other places then forward those kind of information. Also, as we put up new information or graphics or videos on putting on a mask, let's just use that as an example. People can use the ingenuity to forward that on better than some of our public health platforms. So I think that's how I see it. But it's a serious issue, for sure.
You think that when a vaccine is developed, that this kind of misinformation, this kind of false information that's circulating out there, do you think that that's going to set back efforts to get more people to take the vaccine in order to, to boost immunity?
Yeah, and this issue of vaccine confidence precedes the COVID-19 pandemic, and we've been working on various fronts, including looking at social media platforms in terms of combating mis and disinformation. So what we need to do is almost immunize the population against mis and disinformation before the vaccine arrives. And so some of this is actually providing information on the safety and effectiveness measures and the processes that our regulatory authorities undertake, the rigorous processes during this time of rapid vaccine development. So I do think that, prior to the arrival of vaccine work like we're trying to do now and accelerating is extremely important, and that the public should go to the credible sites of information. And we've seen so many sort of media articles, but also other information now about vaccines already that are not credible. And there's many different reasons of why people spread mis or disinformation. And so I think getting a better understanding of that is actually really important, and totally agree. I mean, it is like an immunization of sorts against mis and disinformation that we need.
Hi, Minister Freeland, Crystal with Global News. On the 1999 Marshall decision, is your government actively working on a definition for moderate livelihood, and why has it taken so long?
Thank you for the question. As the Prime Minister said, in the time since the Marshall decision, a lot of very real progress has been made. And I think it's important for us to all be aware of that and all be aware of the magnitude of the challenge. I think all Canadians appreciate that we're at a moment when more serious work needs to be done. It needs to be done in the local community. It needs to be done by the province. It needs to be done by the federal government. And our ministers are very, very actively engaged. And I do want to say, I think that, speaking for myself and really for the vast, vast majority of Canadians, I think we were appalled by the violence that we saw. And we know that as a country, we need to do better and we need to find a resolution.
Hi, Minister Freeland. If you have any thoughts on the airline sector, I'd like to hear them. But my question, I just want to follow up on that one. The government, several ministers now have suggested and outright said that what's happening down in Nova Scotia is racist. And I'm wondering how you see that helps the discussions to call non-Indigenous fishery workers racist.
Okay, so a couple of questions in there. Let me start with the airlines. Let me just, first of all, reiterate something very important the Prime Minister said, which is significant support has been in place since the spring for the airlines, as there has been for all Canadian companies, in the form of our wage subsidy program. And airlines have, and I'm very pleased that they have taken significant advantage of that, receiving more than $1 billion in support from the wage subsidy program. And I am glad that that support is there. I think when we talk about this sector, it's important also to consider some of the challenges that are being faced by airports across the country. And that is certainly something that the government is very aware of. You mentioned, Tonda, the LEAF program. And I'm glad you mentioned that too, because that is a form of significant liquidity support that is there available for all Canadian companies to apply for. And then finally, as the Prime Minister said, we are obviously aware of the particular challenges that the travel sector, the airlines are facing right now. The reality is we are being urged for health reasons not to travel. And if your business is helping people to travel, I think the difficulties are self-evident. Last week, I spoke with the leaders of Canada's major airlines, and we're talking also, of course, with union officials. So it's definitely an issue that we are looking at closely and working on. Tonda, on the question of racism, I think it's really important for all of us in Canada it's important and it's hard to acknowledge that there is systemic racism in our country, systemic racism towards Indigenous people. I grew up in a small town where there are still many Indigenous people, and I've been reflecting on the attitudes and the behaviors in my childhood that I grew up with. And I hope that all Canadians are thinking about that. And I really think we have to recognize that reconciliation is hard. I really believe, I'm proud of us as a country because I think as a country we're committed to reconciliation with Indigenous people and to righting the historic wrongs. I really believe there is, at this point, a deep national commitment, and I think it is actually goes across party lines. And I think that is a really good thing. But systemic racism, in this case specifically towards Indigenous people in Canada, runs very deep in our country and very deep in our history. And I think actually it is helpful for us, those of us, especially those of us who are not Indigenous, to acknowledge that with all the pain and difficulty that that brings. And also to really appreciate that we're going to have to do things really differently. And it is going to take a long time. It has taken centuries to get to where we are today, and it's going to take a long time to develop a different set of relationships.
Nobody election. Everyone says they don't want an election, and yet here we are potentially on the brink of an election. The government has sort of put out, you've said that businesses might not get the help they need if we have an election. What concessions or negotiations is the government willing to work with with the opposition on this motion so that you can avoid having this election, which apparently none of you want?
Look, Pablo Rodriguez, our House Leader, has been very clear over the past few days, including today, on the government's position. He has put forward a very clear proposal on a special committee that would look into our government's COVID spending. That's something that would be very appropriate for Parliament to do, given the magnitude of the spending that quite necessarily we're undertaking right now. On the question of an election, look, I think that our government has been very clear. We absolutely do not want an election. We are not seeking an election. The ball is now in the court of the opposition parties.
Thank you. That concludes today's press conference.